Hey, down there in the Bahamas, I got to wondering if the water's so clear down there, maybe those guys could probably see a mermaid down in there somewhere. Of course, I realize that the two gals that are down there would kind of dull the sight of a mermaid, but anyhow, I just got to wondering if they could see any down in that clear water. You mentioned didn't know grandmother Whitney, my mother, very good, but she was a sure good-hearted old girl. And I got to thinking about it, and I remember one time, I suppose 16 or 17, 1916 or 17, I'd probably been over to my grandmother's for a few days or a week. They brought me home, and when we got there, well, she came out of the house, across the old open porch, out toward our vehicle, whatever it was, and she had on a long dress, which is style of that time, and kind of tight-waisted. She was kind of slender in those days, and I remember how beautiful she looked coming out of there, long stem dress on. She sure looked there to me. I guess I've been gone too long. But anyhow, talking about favorite foods, well, food mostly. I can't remember not liking any food but cooked turnips. I got so I never could stand the smell and taste of cooked turnips for a long time. Then I got so I liked them finally. I like them pretty good. That's the only thing I ever remember that I didn't like. And I remember when slipped down to Kern's place, my mother had asked me once in a while on the cold winter evenings, tell me if I'd milk a cow early, she'd make some tomato soup for supper. And boy, I was willing to do that. But that old tomato soup was real good. I probably think she had a little cream in there. At least I know she had whole milk. And she doped it up a little bit, I suppose, somewhere or another, but golly, that was good stuff. And I remember when you mentioned those toasted cheese, grilled cheese sandwiches down there in Yorktown, Texas. That's kind of the first I ever had of those, I suppose. But we hadn't been eating awful good, and I suppose that's why they tasted so really good, because they were fresh cooked and come out of there good, really good. And I can remember when I was delivering fruit and vegetables to, it's after we were married, over to, well, I went to Abilene Junction City, and every day at a junction to Fort Riley, but 2 or 3 times a week went on over to Abilene, Chapman, Abilene. Anyhow, I'd get over there and get my load off about noon. And there was a little old eating joint on the corner of, when you come down the highway from the north to turn to go west. Highway used to run down through town. Out there on that corner on the north side, there was just a little old eating place, kind of a hamburger joint. Anyhow, I could get a breaded pork chops and potatoes and gravy and cottage cheese. Golly, that was good stuff. That's what I had every time I stopped over there. That was back in the days when they left some of the grease on the pork chops, and they were really good. And good old potatoes and gravy, and fried chicken, and beef, of course, and that scrapple. Scrapple, she made a scrapple in the winter time. Butcher a hog and use some of the trimmings off of the pork, I suppose, most of the trimmings. But anyhow, I had some pork, and then we get some rabbits, and she'd mix it about half and half rabbit and half pork, and make a kind of a loaf out of it. Then she sliced it off and fry it, and man, that was really good. Scrapple. It's hard to get it. Can't get it like that, really. We couldn't go buy it because didn't anybody mix it with the rabbit like that, but she made it with rabbit about half and half, and that stretched the pork out real good. And the rabbit meat's all right too. We ate a few young fried rabbits in the spring. Alfalfa hay cutting time. Catch one in there about half grown or a little better, and run him down and have him for a meal. That was real good stuff. See, and we liked food. She wasn't such a fancy cook especially, but she put out enough to fill you up. She always seemed like you had a plenty to eat. Don't know where she got it all, but she'd fill you up. If you didn't eat, she got mad. Give you heck for not eating. That was in the good old days. And when talking about how nice she looked when I came home from Grandma's, I don't think I ever told her about that, which would have been a real good thing to do. It had helped her a little bit, I imagine. Been a nice thing to do. And we tend to forget that song title, Have I Told You Lately That I Love You? That would go a long ways a lot of times. We tend to forget that. So it'd be a nice thing to remember, or practice a little better. But that's kind of the way it was. I might put in a little more about Grandma. She once in a while would meet a new person or learn about one somewhere or another and write to them. She done quite a little corresponding with different people. More than I ever realized she did. She always writing to somebody. And one time she got a chance to go to the 4-H ranch, Rock Springs. They had a bunch of women from everywhere gathered over there for some kind of a celebration for a few weeks. Anyhow, she was over there and had a great time. She'd talk to any of them old gals, and when they went horseback riding, why, they were surprised. The guy that took them on the trip, he was surprised how she got on the horse by herself and how she rode around there like she ought to, knew how to ride and everything. He was surprised about that. But she got acquainted with some of the women over there on that deal, and she wrote to them for a long time. And she was doing quite a lot of that, more than I realized. Anyway, she stayed with her, writing to him pretty good. She could ride one of those old side saddles about as good as a lot of people can a regular saddle. She could do quite a lot of riding on that side saddle business. Well, it looked like that was quite an accomplishment to be able to ride one of them good. You ask what frightened me the most? Well, there's a lot of things that kind of scare you a little bit about what's going on or how it's going to come out and all that stuff. But personally, I had an experience that I don't think very many people have, and I hope they don't have. But I had an experience about being kind of scared. It caused more of a kind of a breakdown than being scared. We were starting to pump one evening over at the sand plant when I first started working over there. And the guy that was going to run the pump, he was cleaning some sticks out of the pipe out there, the suction pipe. He had it lifted up there, and he was out on a plank. He had a plank out there so they could get out there and take off the inspection plate off of the joint of the pipe or the corner of the pipe and clean out the sticks or whatever got caught in there. Sometimes it cut down their suction. Anyhow, he fell off into the goddamn water, and the river was up about 4 feet, which give it a fair current. And Willard Kershaw, the owner, and Ned Harris, the boss, they happened to be there. And it was early in the evening. We started about, I suppose, 5 o'clock when the other guys quit. And then we pumped till midnight. And trying to get caught up on the sand. But this guy fell off there, and the guy hauling the fuel out to it, those days they hauled the fuel out there in 5-gallon cans, poured it in the barrel, and he was out there, had the boat out there, a rowboat, and he hollered. The guy disappeared out there. He couldn't find him, and so we had him. He was supposed to come in and pick Ned and I up, and we went out there. And about that time, why, the guy come up, we could see his arms sticking up, see the top of his head and his arms sticking straight up in the air, just still like, but he came up down below the boat a ways, and that guy in the boat, he was scared to go out there to try to get him by himself, so he come in to get us. And the time we got in the damn boat, well, he just about sunk. He kept getting a little lower down, lower down. Finally went out of sight about the time we got in the boat. But we went out there, and it's kind of an experience if somebody goes under the water and you can't tell where they're at, you know. It's kind of a dumb, sort of a helpless feeling that he might be within 10 feet of you, but you can't see him or tell where he's at. And we saw his package of cigarettes float by, and that stopped the work that night, of course, and we hunted for him, had to ambulance and the police and everybody out there. Couldn't find him. And next day they drug rolls of wire all around out there trying to pick him up. He had his clothes on, of course. And I looked for a couple of days. Had divers from Fort Riley come over and try to work around some drifts along there, but they didn't do a great lot because it was just more for show than anything, they claimed. But they blew water around some of them drifts to kind of help floating up if they could. But anyhow, they never did find him. We run the river there for down to the mouth of the blue every day for quite a while. See if we could run on to him. Never did find him. Never heard nothing from him or of him. Nobody. And I was in after the flood in September, after the 51 flood. And the damn rains we got, a lot of real mean lightning, just biff, bam, and carry on. And just a little while after I got drowned, we were pumping one night. I was running the crane, and it was coming up one of them showers. I had the pickup there pretty close to the crane, and it started sprinkling a little bit, so I thought I'd just go sit in the pickup. And I had the clam bucket sitting up on the pile of sands I had there, and the machine was shut off, just sitting there. But I just went over to get in the, I got in the pickup, got to sit down there, and the lightning struck the boom of the crane, and it like to knock me out the other side of the pickup. I mean, didn't knock me, but I about fell out through that side. But I saw this ball of fire go down the boom for about 6 feet or so. Just a big old ball of fire and a hell of a collapse. But that really shook me up. It was night, stormy, and it hit so damn close, and I couldn't tell what had happened. If I'd have been on the crane, probably nothing would have to me, but it would have been too damn close to be sitting there anyhow. And I thought I got out after a while and wondered about my pumper. Thought maybe possibly it'd gone up the pipeline, maybe, but it hadn't hit it, I guess. Wasn't very far from the end of my boom, but it was a little too far, I guess, for that one collapse. Anyhow, the sulfur sure did stink around that thing. When I got out and got to kind of looking around, I didn't know whether to get close to it or touch it or what to do. But I thought everything would be welded together. But we couldn't find anything to show it had ever been hit outside the inside of the bucket where it was sitting on in the sand. You just kicked it loose and threw it in a little bit from the edge of the inside of the bucket where it was sitting in the sand. Just kicked the sand in a little bit around it. That's the only thing we could tell it ever hit. Cables didn't hurt them at all. Nothing. It was grounded so good, I guess, sitting in the sandy water on the steel tracks. And sand was wet, of course. Bucket was sitting right down in that, tied to the cables. Run right down past the seat where you sat. You couldn't tell where it done anything to it. But that shook me up till, God, not especially that night so bad, but it just, oh God, a kind of a nervous breakdown or something. I couldn't stand to be out at night. Couldn't stand the dark. Just tear me up to be out of the dark by myself, especially. Just more nerves than anything, I suppose, but I'd almost could bawl if I had to be with myself a little bit out in the dark. And that lasted quite a while, 6 months or so before I got over it. Doesn't bother me at all anymore, but it sure gave me a time there for a while. And that could be being scared, I guess. And I hope anybody else don't have it, because that's terrible to go through that kind of a deal. And I've been shook up a little otherwise, different times, but most of it blows over. I was kind of afraid of, I was worried a little bit about tipping a damn crane over or something like that, having some kind of a wreck. But that's more worrying than anything, I guess. Anyway, that was a hell of an experience to go through. And you ask who was a really good friend. Well, I've had a lot of good friends, and most of them are still my friends, them that are alive yet. People I worked with, some of them were good friends, got along good together, and enjoyed each other, even working with each other, got along with the work good together. Those are pretty good kind of friends, but I never did have a bosom buddy, or whatever you'd call it, that you had to run to with everything, or he had to come to you, just a regular buddy stuff all the time. I never got tied up with that too much. But some of them old friends are good friends. You could ask them to help you out today and they'd still do it. Those are pretty good kind of friends. And some of my son-in-laws are probably pretty good friends. Maybe they feel like they have to be, but Rodney and I have had a lot of good times together, I think, fishing and shooting the bow, sitting around home there drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, carrying on nights. We done quite a lot of talking and stuff when we was fishing. Oh, we got quite a lot of that kind of stuff done, for one thing. And I went quite a lot of places with Charlie while he was out running around. Half the time I had such a damn headache I couldn't hardly stand it, but I enjoyed most of it. Places we went, things we done. And I don't know about my newest one. He must be all right, or Rach wouldn't be so crazy about him. That's about all I know. Yeah, I hadn't been out with him much. But I still kind of like to wonder about those mermaids down there. Betty and I were done a lot of stuff together. Got along pretty good together. Sometimes he just leave in by himself, but like going fishing or something, you want to go, okay, and if you didn't, well, that's all right with him too. But we've done a lot of stuff together, riding and hunting and all that stuff. So I hope that kind of answered your question, because I had lots of friends, and I think they're still my friends, a lot of them that are around. So those are pretty good kind of people. It says here, if you could look out the window and see anything you wanted to see, what would it be? Oh boy. One thing might be a bunch of good old cowboys driving a string of steers up through the big river valley, and about 10,000 buffalo strung out along, grazing out along through the area, and maybe a pretty good sized bunch of old Indians over on the other side, out before they got carrying guns. Well, that might be a bad deal, because I'd probably get homesick over that kind of a sight. But that would be one thing. And another thing would be a bunch of all kinds of little birds from the north sitting around the feeder eating out here in the yard where I could look at them and have the book handy so I could tell what they were. That'd be another one. And maybe some beautiful mountains with some elk or deer or something scattered through that. Or maybe up there in Wyoming somewhere where they have a few wild horses wouldn't be too bad of a picture. Looking out across there, seeing a bunch of them. Be a lot better to have a horse chasing them, trying to corral them. You know, George McCord, this is kind of getting off the subject, but George McCord, if he'd had a little backing, he always talked about going up there somewhere and getting a bunch of them wild horses and get enough riders to drive them and start home with them, driving them home and breaking them on the way with a chuck wagon they're coming along with you and all that stuff, with enough guys to handle those little horses and break them on the way home. And I'd have gone with him if he would have, because that would have been some trip. He talked about that kind of a deal quite a lot, but taking a little bit of capital to do it. I guess he never had that kind of money, probably, but that would really have been an experience. That's back there about before the cars got very thick, and you could have drove them on the road a lot of the time, but down in this country, up there in that country, probably could have cut across the country. Open country, but that had been in the late 20s or early 30s. Well, I might have got that done. But that'd have been some trip, I'd guess. Then on that picture deal, I don't know how many women you could get in a picture like that, or how to have them dressed, or not. That'd take a lot of considering there. Probably have to have some priorities on that. There's a lot of places in this country that I would like to fly over with a helicopter and look down from above. If I could see a lot of beautiful sights that way, if we had a helicopter and could fly it where we wanted to, that'd be some kind of pictures. That was a kind of a dumb question anyhow, wasn't it? So I'll quit on that, I think. You're asking about playing horseshoe. Well, that was a tough old go, that horseshoe business. You put your stakes, I believe, around 43 feet, something like that was the regulation. I'm not positive, but something like that. And you either counted your ringers 5 and the leaners 3 and the other points 1, or sometimes you just counted the ringers as 3 and the other points 1. But sometimes you made up your own rules. You didn't count anything but ringers sometimes, and that gets to be kind of tough for a guy that don't throw a lot of ringers. I remember one time, one spring and summer, Dad and Freddie, they lived there close together, and they had lights out there, and they had a pitching area there where they had their stakes all set up. They get out there every night and play a while into the lights. They'd play quite a few games there, and they got real tough. They got so they piled them ringers on there 4 at a time, or maybe they'd one get knocked off, they'd only have 3 on. But they got really rough with that. So I remember going up there a few times in the evening and trying to pitch with them, and golly, they were hard to beat or get close to. You had to throw a lot of ringers, and I just never got that much practice that I could compete with them very good on that. But normally we played partners, 4 of us, so 2 guys throw one way, one game, and then they go to the other stake, throw back the other way, the next game. And that was tough old competition that way. We played a lot of, and they got to be within the width of a shoe with a stake, or they don't count. And you lose a shoe that way once in a while, get it too far out or it'd bounce off. Sometimes you throw a ringer on there and then you knock it off next time you threw. And this was mainly before them guys got to throwing all them ringers, practicing by themselves. But you get in some real old competition that way. Tough old games. A lot of fun. But it seemed like the distance was just about 2 feet farther than my normal throw. And I had to put that little extra on every time. And then to control the turn of your shoes and get her lined up and all that stuff, get it all to working together, I had a lot of problems. I had to work hard at it. I thought I could do better if I could have cut it down about 2 feet. I could have had a more natural throw, less competition that way. But that is one problem I had. I was pretty good. I competed pretty good with them. Outside of that practiced up job they were doing. You go to getting 75–80% ringers on the stake. Boy, that takes a lot of pitching. Get used to that so you can do it. So that's part of that stuff. Dad had a funny way of throwing his. He held them in the center and they turned flip-flop over, but they'd come down ka-chunk right on the stake. Most guys throw them flat, they turn a little flat-wise around, but his turned over and over. They come out pretty good shape a lot of the time. Freddie threw his wobbly, and they turned around 2 or 3 times, wobbly kind of things. But they come out flop down there on the stake. I tried to throw mine just a half turn or whatever it takes to be open, come onto the stake open. And it's hard to keep that all working just right. But it's a lot of fun. Takes up a lot of time. And you talk about competition. Freddie was always a contender, especially like pitching horseshoe or shooting a gun or catching a fish. He was always competitive, and you had to get with it to outdo him or stay with him a lot of times. But, and he rode a pretty good horse. He's pretty good driving the cattle. Everett been pretty good most of the time, but little different. Of course, poor old Jim, he come along, put near too late. He didn't get in on all that kind of crap we had. So much of it, anyhow. Just he got in on some of the horseshoe pitching later on. But when he was a little bitty kid, so when we was doing most of it. And all that stuff. Great times. Dad and us three older boys, we could play a lot of pitch together, and horseshoes and whatever. We done a lot of playing pitch, like four-handed pitch. Made a real good game of it. It was real handy to have four players. And we got to be pretty tough. That sort of stuff. A lot of fun. We didn't cheat those days like Rodney and Charlie do. They pretty hard to beat. I accused them of cheating, but I guess they don't. Probably. Never caught them at it very good anyhow. They got a funny way of shuffling cards, I think, is the biggest problem. Don't get them cards mixed up like they ought to be. Don't seem like when you don't get anything above a deuce or a 10 spot, always get one of them so you can't call a misdeal. A lot of fun anyhow. A lot of fun. Real fortunate to be in a family like that, I guess. 17th of August, 87. And while we were talking about cards, I thought I'd just run this in. I may have already, but if I have, I'm sorry. I've forgotten it. But one winter, I talked to my three brothers into playing cards once a week. I think we played on Wednesday nights. We alternated where we played and who we played with every night. One night we played at our house, and the next time at Jim's and Betty's, and then to Everett's, and back around again. And I thought we had a lot of fun, and got to see each other quite often. And I thought it was a real good deal, and I guess they did too, but the next year I thought I'd let them, some of them started if they wanted to, and nobody ever did, so I guess some of them get so they didn't want to get out too bad. And we had a lot of fun that winter, though. I thought, real nice thing to do. Four of us. So I thought I'd run that in there. I kept track of each guy's individual score. We put in a dime apiece every evening, which wasn't very much. We kept a total score of each guy. And I come out the winner, of course, being the best player. Anyhow, I won the thing, and I think it was, he had to be 40 cents, be $1.60 a month. I think we played 4 or 5 months, so it wasn't really a very lot of money. It took a lot of taking care of it, though. I mean, keeping track. I don't know whether someone thought that was such a great thing or not, but it sure worked good for me, however. Well, Mom's gone down to the library. I guess this would be a good time to talk about her. Rach kind of wanted to know what made her so special. She ought to have a little idea of her own, seems like. But she's been a real good old gal, hard-working old gal, good-natured, likes most people. Them she don't like, she's kind of like me, they're in trouble. But likes most people and tries to get along with everybody. She's a real good cook. When we got married, I said, now let's try and have something to eat if we don't have anything else. And we've had something to eat, and we haven't had much else. But she's a real good cook and likes to cook and wears herself out at it and all that stuff. But she's a good-natured old girl, and she's been awful mad at me a few times, I guess, but she got over it and I withstood it, so I guess that's the main thing. She's very unmechanical as far as that goes. If something don't work, why she don't know how to fix it. She might tear it up to try to fix it, but she don't have much use for mechanical troubles. But otherwise, she's doing a real good job with me nowadays. Got a lot of patience and puts up with a lot. Does a lot for me. And I don't know, she's been pretty good to live with all our lives. Always willing to work or fix somebody something to eat. Looked after the kids, pretty good shape. Took pretty good care of them. She never wanted me to go in debt for nothing, which is probably all right, but I did some anyhow. got along pretty good. She's working too hard nowadays. I wish she'd slow down a little, but she doesn't seem to. She always got to do something for somebody or something. Yard's too much to look after, but she got to do it. She thinks, anyhow. Got the dang many flowers that can't hardly keep up with them. But it's just fine, but she's getting a little bit too grown up to keep up forever. Times she's slowing down a little. But she won't. Has to be a pretty good time to put in some stuff I keep thinking about. Seems like I must have been a little bit different than a lot of kids I grew up with, or even my brothers. I always wanted to try cutting the pig or the calf or rowing the boat or climbing the tree or putting that calf where he belonged with a horse or anything like that. I always wanted to try it. Even to fly and that sort of stuff. And I always wanted to try something new, see if I could do it or whatever. Must have been a little different from some people because they didn't seem to want to do anything. Maybe even afraid to try to do some stuff. But I guess that got me in a lot of trouble probably when I was little. Got me into a lot of stuff anyhow. That's kind of a nice way to be, I think, to like something new, try something new, see if you can do it. It's gives you a little broader scope of things. You have notions of what you can do, what you like. Some of them you don't give a darn about after you get it done. Well, that's all you want to know about it, I guess. But it always seemed to me like there was a lot of kids didn't want to try anything new. I was always ready. It seemed like I must have been a little different. Not that it's done me a lot of good, but I tried a lot of stuff anyhow. Some of it I got done in pretty good shape. I think as far as running a crane and a clam bucket, I think I can do anything with a clam bucket that can be done with one. In other words, I kind of thought I was in the expert class with a clam bucket. Some of the rest of the attachments I never cared a lot for, like a drag bucket or a shovel. I didn't ever care for them too much. They're kind of dead weight. Old drag bucket's an awkward thing to do anything with. But a clam bucket, you can put it where you want it and stop it where you want it and string the stuff out of it like you want to, or spread it. You can do a real good job with it if you can handle it. And all that kind of stuff is do, nice to be able to do. But I always kind of wanted to try stuff. So I even helped Jack Dow shrink the tires on a wagon wheel, which was old-timer stuff to me. I'd never seen anybody do it. So we did her one day over at his place there. He was going to do one, and I got over there and helped him and watched him. And quite an experience. And dehorning them old cows, I kind of wanted to get in on that. And it runs into a lot of work pretty fast. They didn't cut the calves' horns off like they do nowadays, the little calves, or dig them out. They waited till they got big enough to saw off with a saw. And they'd put them in a chute with a headstall, pull the head down there tight, and you'd saw them off. Supposed to take a rim of hair around with them so they wouldn't be nubs or try to grow again. But that takes a lot of sawing on a bunch of cows. So I got in on the last end of that kind of business. They don't do it anymore. They don't make they used to not do it maybe for a year or two. Then they'd get them all in and do them. They'd have some cows and some yearlings, and on down the cows, everybody had a few cows. They milked probably, some of them, and they had a little herd of their own. A few had 10, 15 head maybe. But everybody had some cows in those days. And about every so often, why, they'd except a dehorning time, and then they went around to different people's place and do this dehorning while I was in the business. Some of them old cows, when they turned them out of there, they'd be madder than the devil. Go and get in a fight with something with their horns all cut off because their head hurt. And some of them, they clear the pain if they get mad, and you had to give them room, boy. But that was quite a process, and I got to doing some of that to last hand, and Jack Dial had made him he done it quite a lot, and he made him a saw. And when he kind of got done, well, he gave me the saw. I still got it. So, out there in the garage, it's a good old saw to cut the horns off with. So that about takes care of that stuff, I guess. Oh yeah, I was going to tell about rowing a rowboat. Freddie had a pretty good old wooden rowboat. It was a well-balanced boat. He's good to handle. But I had it down there one summer and had quite a little high water around there. But I got so I could, the river was up half bank full, I could go down there and go straight across that river. You just set her on there right, and you go right straight across on the custom currents, just straight across. It was real nice to do. You could go wherever you wanted to go that way. And when the water got up high enough to run down through the pond and across the road and down through the field there, you had to go across the road there kind of rough and strong. But I could go straight down that road, go straight on down the road, set that boat on there just right, just shoot her right straight across. I hauled old man Dodge across there quite a little, and Peterson's I hauled their milk across there quite a while, different times. You get up there too high to drive across. I could usually make it with a big tractor, but still, if you're trying to pull a wagon behind you, why it might float it around by hang it downstream. But so we crossed there with a rowboat quite a little. I sure got so I could handle that old rowboat. It was a nice boat to handle. Be too much work nowadays to do all that rowing. But it was all fun. In '58, I'd got a job up on the dam. Worked up there a little while, run the dozer a few days, and they laid me off for a few days, and then I went back for a few more days, and about the time they laid me off the second time for a few days. Didn't really lay me off, they just said don't come tomorrow for a day or two, and then Smith he worked for Carruthers Constructions out of Paola. They got a job building the addition to the waterworks here, and he come out there and wanted a crane operator, and they were going to take about 10 months. So I thought that would probably be better than trying to get on up there at the dam. That's a terrible place to work anyhow. I mean, no, not much pride in it really. You just go and go and go all day, and you don't know what you've done when you get done. It's I wasn't used to that kind of stuff. I usually could tell what I'd done and what I had to do and so on. Building something to your own, why, little difference in that kind of business. Anyhow, I took this crane job. It's a little cement, or a little brick building south of the old building is what we built. And all under there is a big water tank. We dug it out and poured concrete all over, top and bottom and sides, and made a tank under there. It's sitting on the corner of it, kind of. But anyhow, that was a real good job. I enjoyed that. And Smith, he was a real good guy to work for. And if there wasn't anything to do but to labor, or what I mean, if there wasn't crane work to do, why I didn't have to do very much. Fiddle around there, just be there mostly. Wait until a load of something come in, or I'd use a crane a little for something. But he treated me real good. And he wanted me to go to Moberly, Missouri with him from here, and I almost did, but it was a little too far away from home. And another time he called me and wanted me to come and do some work down by south of where Charlie and Alice lived, down at didn't say anybody's name anymore, down in that country anyhow. Anyway, but I didn't go. Charlie went down with me. I went down there to look at it one time. He went down there with me. Yeah, we went to pick up a three gilts he bought down in that country. We went on down there to look at that job, but I decided not to go too far away from home, really. But he was a good guy to work for. He thought I was the best clam operator he ever saw. So I was all puffed up over that. But and that was in '58. And we got under that. And then we started to build the St. Mary's Hospital, about '60. That is while he was working there, that was when the Clutter murder took place. And them guys killed the Clutter family out there. Anyhow, that was quite a job. I poured all the concrete in the damn building. They've added a little on the south and maybe some on the west since, but that north side, poured all that. Couldn't reach the top two floors. They had to, I reached to put it up on the floor, but I couldn't scout it out for them up there. Too high up, and they had to wheel a lot of that. But anyhow, and I hoisted all the steel up onto the rough floors. Every time they go up on it, I had to put a bunch of steel up there for the steel tires to get in there for the reinforcing. And put all in columns, stuff. That took quite a while up there. Colder than hell part of the time. Hard to keep my feet warm. Anyway, that was a big old job. I told them I wanted to reserve a room up there, but nobody ever reserved it. I thought I ought to have a reserved place up there, but nobody else thought so, I guess. And that was for green construction. And then I went over and done some steel work on the I don't know what to call it, Merlat School or Southfield College Hill School over there. I done some steel work on that, set some steel for them guys over there with that crane. And that was quite a job. And In the later part of the 50s, after the 51 flood, a year or two anyway, we had an awful time of getting our hay dry to bale, and putting it every time you needed to turn it so it would dry underneath. The ground was wet. Couldn't hardly get it dry without turning it or leaving it there forever. And the danged old rakes, they never did turn it just exactly over. They turned some of it clear over and back up on the same side it was on. But it was a heck of a job to try to get it turned decent. Even the raking helped some because it fluffed it up a little more and got it up off the ground a little better. Some of it was laying pretty tight when it rained on it or anything. But I got a notion that I could make something that would turn that stuff exactly over, right the other side up onto different ground than where it was laying. So it'd dry out pretty good. And along about that time, the Viking plant had got started down here, and they come out with a lot of stuff about Erickson, the guy that was running it. Their home plant was up in Iowa or Illinois or somewhere. Anyhow, that's just a branch, but he was running this one. And come out that he had told how many patents he had and stuff, and told some about the place. So well, maybe he's used to patents, maybe I ought to go talk to him about it. So I went down there and got to see him. He's a real nice fellow, willing to talk. Didn't ask too many questions about how the thing was supposed to be made. I told him that I had a notion of trying to make something like that. He said, well, he was kind of interested. They built grain elevators and stuff like that, grinders, and a lot of different things, but on that order of stuff. And he said, well, they might be able to do that, build kind of a thing. He said, you go home, and I kind of told him what it ought to be like. He said, you go home and make a little model of it, or make a model, and we'll furnish the stuff. If you need some tin and stuff, well, we'll furnish that. And you get this thing working, and we'll come out and look at it. So I got to old Bob's store to do some welding and on an old mowing machine, running gear, and I bought a little old 3-foot pickup from the combine, Jim's, and I got it fastened on behind that mowing machine, and the mowing machine turned it with a belt drive. And I made the thing on the back, put patina on there and curled her over kind of like a plow, and didn't have any hay down, decent kind of windrow, only one strip. It was a little old dribbling kind of a windrow I left just for this purpose. And it was a short cutting, and we went ahead and cut it and raked it and didn't have very much. But anyhow, I called him and told him, had it ready to go, and him and another guy come out there, and we demonstrated it to him. And he says, okay, he says, I don't say anything to anybody, and you can tear that up now if you want to destroy it, so nobody can copy it, and we'll get the patent for you. They had patent attorneys and searchers and all working for them anyhow, and they sent them up to Washington and done the research on it and got the patent for me. And they were going to build it. They'd already ordered some. This was going to push out in front of the tractor so we wouldn't run over any hay or nothing. All we do is just turn the other side up. And he'd already ordered some of the crazy wheels to put out front, and they were going to buy them. And his son-in-law was about to graduate from school, and he was coming down here to work, and he was going to turn that over to him and let him work on that. That'd be his project, he said. And about the time, before they even got really started on it, the war come along, and they had to take some war contracts, and they done those for a couple or 3 years. They worked on that stuff, and when they got under them, why, their machinery was out of date kind of, and they had to remodel a lot of that and redo it and make a lot of them to get caught up on. And they decided they just couldn't handle that. Anyhow, that's what he said. So they give me the patent. Said it's yours, do whatever you wanted with it. They wouldn't interfere with nothing. And yeah, of course I didn't know what to do with it or how to sell it or nothing. Went clear up in North Dakota one time in '64 to try to sell it to the Sun Manufacturing Company up there. They made rock pickers, and they'd have worked just real good. Put this piece of tin on behind them and been working real fine, but I couldn't interest them in it very much. And but we got a trip out of it anyhow. So that's how it pooped out and didn't ever amount to nothing, but it still would be a good thing to have. Where they cut it and windrow it all at once now, and they leave it lay for a couple of days and run a great risk of raining on it. And they just leave it lay there till it gets dry enough clear down through to fail. Or if they go out there and flip it the other side up, they could probably gain maybe a day on it, you know. And some days they might even bale it. Cut it in the morning, they might get it baled by the evening. Weather was right, might turn it over halfway through, or at least the next day, and save a lot of hay that way. Make a lot of good hay, but you never get anything done. Patent run out on it. any good anymore. I was supposed to get $1 a machine. They said if they couldn't sell 1,000 of them a year, it wouldn't be worth fooling with. So it didn't sound like much, but $1,000 a year had been pretty good for me in those days. And they sold machinery all over this country and a lot of other countries too. But it never materialized. Somebody wanted to, they could make a machine that do a real good job. Even yet, just fastened on the back end of one of their already windrowing machines. When they mow it, windrow it, just fasten it on behind one of them things and flip it right other side up. Be a real good thing. But they don't have it. One time they took the old fire escape thing off of the Anderson Hall up there and brought it down to the park and put it up for kids to play in. It was a climb up the top, get in, and you go around, down, you go slide around, and come out the bottom. And when we were putting that up, why, the guy that was running the job, he was for the city. God, I'd lift the guy up there with a cable, lift him up there to fasten the cables to it or take them off or whatever. And we put some other stuff up there beside it to hold it up there. But God, he thought that was fancy stuff, and he wanted to ride up there and down on the cable. He got a big kick out of having me hoist him up there and let him down, stand with his foot in a loop. Golly, he got a lot of kick out of that. It was worth the job just to entertain him, really. He thought that was a big deal riding up there on that cable. I should have given him a thrill or two, but I didn't, being as I was boss. I just happened to think of that and thought I'd throw it in there. Yeah, I was going to tell you that this is the middle of August. This is the time of year when the blue jays get bald-headed. I think it's the young ones. They hatch out and grow their feathers, and then this time of year they get bald-headed and shed all their feathers off of their head and necks and get new stuff. Get their permanent hair, I guess. But they're starting to look bald-headed like a vulture here now above them. Oh, this is the time of year for that. They're sure pretty looking. Back to this castrating business on the cats. I got Rodney started on some pigs on that farm. Then the cat business come along, and golly, he likes that, I think. It's nice, fine work for him. Anyhow, we've had a lot of going with them cat business. Charlie and I done one for Walton, Jerry Walton. She had a big old black cat. One in fixed because he wet on stuff. And I tried to hold him, and he got away from me a time or two while Charlie was working on him, but you could catch him and start over again. He wasn't a real bad kind of a cat to handle, but we had one out at Charlie's, I can remember. He was a big old outdoor wild sort of a cat, and God, we couldn't even hold him, let alone do anything to him. Roddy and I both tried to hold him, and Jesus, you could catch him once in a while, but you couldn't hold him because he was going to go somewhere. We never did get him. He went somewhere, I guess. But had a lot of fun. Anyhow, I'm trying to finish up this tape here without wasting it too much. And it's getting down pretty close. And I never did find out for sure whether that stopped that old cat of Jerry Waltz from wetting or not, but anyhow, we took care of him for her. It's better to do it, I think, when they're just about grown, not after they get to be old. I done one for Freddie one time. It was an old cat, and I haven't seen him since. We turned him loose and he left the country or died or something. I don't know, never did see him. He was kind of wild. But there's a lot of stuff all I can think of if he has time enough. Anyway, a lot of excitement in that cat business. We had one get away 2 or 3 times out home there. They just get too hot to handle when they get to slipping and a leg comes loose or the head comes loose, and that's when you better start turning them loose, when their mouth gets open. Because I don't want them biting me. It's funny how they can just keep a wiggling and get out of your grips. If they can do it. We had that one, we just work on him a while and he get loose, and then we go catch him again and work on him some more. But it sure changes their attitude anyway. I've seen a few dogs that were castrated when they were just before they were grown, young. God, most of them, they don't know nothing or care less. Kind of dummies they act like, all I ever saw. It might be alright if you let them grow up and get old and then do it, but it seems to mess them up pretty good. They don't develop a brain or something. Never amount to much anyhow. Well, I think I've caught up on all my odds and ends. And if anybody wants anything, well, they better get her in here pretty soon, because I don't know what's going on from now on. So I'll let you go with that. Have a nice day.